All right. Ding, ding, ding. Here we go. Lesson 3 for the show. I'm a poet and didn't know it. So I'm excited about this one today. This one was an interesting lesson and learn for me. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Matthew Barry, a client turned friend who was willing to give some of his time to me to show me some things and share with me some things that really helped him in his career, which is an amazing one. So let's get started. So a recap, this is lesson 3, and it's called It's Time to Square Up, right? So again, this is a powerful one. So I think you're going to like it. To recap, make sure you're checking out some of my other videos, long term, and eventually, this will be lessons and podcasts and even courses that compiled that people can utilize to help themselves get through some of life's challenges and then more specifically health and fitness things, right? So we're going to get rid of the fluff and bring in only the buff, because there's a lot of fluff out there, and with every product and service and white labeling and idea out there, something's trying to be sold and something's trying to be um, made more than it is oftentimes. So let's get down to the dirty. So to recap, lesson 1 was about decision making and information, right? So knowledge is power. And my argument there is you don't go into anything even seemingly as simple as a health goal without some knowledge, right? Because then you're one of the convenient idiots in the system that just buys the next thing, right? And you buy in and you believe and you start selling it to your friends, and then all of a sudden you don't even finish the program and it doesn't work for you either. So sound familiar? Lesson 2 was a little bit about your world and what that is, so my lesson there was the people that you don't want to see harm, the people that you definitely don't want to ever let down, the ones you love dearly, between humans and things that are you, like the career and the businesses that you've built and things like that. That's your world, and you want to protect that. And the last thing you want to do is be the person who lets that world down, right? And one of the things we tied in there is if you're letting yourself down, right, and you're putting your health last and your mental fitness last, and you're constantly putting off things that need to be done. Not only are you teaching this to children and staff and things like that, it's a poor habit of I come last. And what we know is that to help anybody else, we got to help ourselves first and love ourselves first and all those kind of things to find and to provide love to somebody else and into the world. So for today, what I want to do is talk about, okay, now we understand a little bit more about how we make decisions and how information is kind of held. And you're only getting that Buffington 1/16th rule of all the information, right? So we got to fill that information in, and I'm here to teach you how. And also you can just lean on me. I've already done it for you. So today is what I'm calling square up. So one of the biggest obstacles that I have found in questioning folks that I would start working with as a personal trainer, or even as a therapist later on, and I use that word lightly, just because of how certifications and licenses are done. It's kind of like, I have a lot of information about diet that I've gathered over the years. I know a lot about the energy systems and all these kind of things, but I'm not a licensed dietitian, so I can't tell you how to eat, right? It's little things like that. But one of the biggest obstacles that I had come across, and with feedback from clients and why they haven't done something till now, it's basically their inability to manage their time and schedule in fitness and make it a priority. So when it comes to, again, looking back at lesson 2, when it comes to our own health, we tend to put it last, and then when we do decide, like, oh, you know what, I got a wake up call, I'm 50 pounds heavy now, or my knees are getting messed up, and whatever, we always get these little wake up calls, and then all of a sudden you jump on it, and then for whatever reason you fall off. And a lot of it, I have found, has been time management. And a lot of people don't even want to call it that, because again, in their jobs or in their careers, or in their home lives, juggling kids and the jobs and the careers and the home and the cleaning and the dinners and the sports and right. It's a crazy amount to juggle. There's no doubt about it. But ironically, some people do it all, and some people do it all with a smile and somehow make it to the social event that weekend as well. So, and have multiple vacations every year. Trust me, a bunch of us right now know what I mean when I say I don't know how they do it, right? But we know how they do it because we do some of it, and we do even more sometimes. And they look at us and go, I don't know how he does it, right? So, in in creating this, what you want to do is tie back to the discussions about your world and how easy it is to put other things first other than your health and sanity. So I thought it'd be very powerful to combine this idea with a very powerful and eye-opening life planning exercise that I learned through Matt Berry. Where he got it, I'm not sure, but I love it. And this information helped him. It's one of the things that helped him build a successful global company. And in this exercise, it just kind of forces you to, oh my gosh. Okay. So today we get to exercise, but we're going to exercise our minds. You know, success we're going to talk about in great detail in a future lesson, because success is very subjective, but it's also very elusive. So the best thing that we can do before we jump into something is knowledge, right? Understand it, define it, right? It's similar to going into medicine. You got something wrong with you. Well, the first thing we need to do is figure out what's wrong, right? We need to diagnose it. And then from that diagnostic venture, we figure out how to attack, right? So we'll get into success and what that is to most people and to you individually. So what do you need for this exercise? Grab your laptop or jump on your PC, and you can always back up to this. Maybe watch this through a little bit and go back when you're home and have a little time to jump into it, or you have a little break at work. It doesn't take too long, but it is very, very eye-opening. So jump on your PC or your laptop, open up a Word document, and what you want to do is, I'm going to share my screen here, and what you want to do is find something like this. So you see this here, right? And what I did is I just searched for an empty page with squares. In fact, I even spelled it wrong and in my haste, and it found what I needed. So so you can pull something like this up, download the PDF or open the file and screenshot it. And if you're technically advanced at all, you can do it this route. But get you a full page of these, so that you have at least 30 or 40 squares. The other thing that you can do is simply grab a piece of print paper, notebook paper even works. Believe it or not, I actually still use these. But you can take off a piece of this and just basically put, 5 or 6 lines going this way and 4 to 6 lines going this way, so that you get a bunch of squares. You can always use two pages if you need to, or put a bunch more smaller squares on a single page. But the idea here is to have at least 30 squares or so to work with, especially if you're middle-aged. So I would push for maybe even 40 to 50 squares on your sheet. So if you have 5 by 10 or whatever, however you would come up with that. So once you have that in place, what you want to do is, with your grid or your empty calendar, not calories, see where my brain is, put that piece of paper or that document in front of you on your computer. And at the very top, what I want you to do, so this is up in the top left, right? Top left of the corner. If your entire sheet are squares, then put it in the top left square. But if you left a little space up there, put it there. And because this is kind of a timeline, right? So this is like start time, timeline, end time. So think of it that way. So on the top left, you're going to put the year you were born. And don't worry, nobody's judging. But again, just that alone should start to trigger like, damn, I was born in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So it already ages you, right? And it starts to remind you of what you have left, right? What you've accomplished so far. So don't get too mind sapped into that yet. Just put that date. And then what I want you to do is think about, okay, if you're quasi middle aged like me, you're in your 30s or 40s, you're going to put 2024 now year, today's year, somewhere around the middle of the page at the top again. If you're a little more elder, if you're 60, 70, 80 years old, the 2024 number is going to go a little bit more towards the right. So again, that top thing is a timeline, right? So from left to right, it's when I was born, and we're going to talk about when we think we might die. So it's an unfortunate fact of every life that we don't necessarily love to talk about, especially in this culture, because in this culture it means the end, right? Less religion and things like that. But we're going to think about for that final number, based on your genetic history, your personal lifestyle, even more so, an environment, your stress levels, all those things. I would try to discount going down in an airplane, right? Or I always thought I would die, younger or whatever. I would also try to discount getting past 100, even though that's a goal of mine. And it's unlikely, right? So try to pick a pretty solid end date, expiration date for yourself. And don't get too wrapped up in these numbers, right? Again, the whole idea of this exercise is to get you thinking and to get that head humming. And over time here, we're going to piece together little parts of the pie in the brain here that are going to help you overcome almost any obstacle. Okay. So I'm just choosing the health and fitness obstacle because it affects a lot of people that I know and love. I know statistically how terrible even the wealthiest country in the world is when it comes to our general health and fitness. So I thought, with the amount of knowledge and experience that I've gathered in my time on the earth, this might be the best way to help, not only my circle, but my community, and we'll see how public this grows and how far out I can reach. So again, at the very top left, the year you were born. Somewhere in the middle, exaggeratedly to the right a little bit as you age, okay, is today's year, 2024. And then on the far right, you're going to have the year, the approximate year that you think you might terminate. If you don't make it that far, something tells me you won't worry about this exercise when you're there. And if you make it farther, fantastic, right? So between those numbers, just draw lines, right? So it's like I was born 1977, right? Then I'd have a line going to 2024. Then I'd have a line, maybe a little arrow going to my termination date, right? So now we have that at the top, and we have a bunch of empty squares, right? So once you are there on your top left square, what you want to do is fill in today's year again, 2024. Okay. And then as you move to the right and then down and then to the right and then down, and so on, 2025, 2026, 2027. If you're anything like me and your patience expires real quick, you'll make it 25, 26, 27, and things like that. If 22, 24, 26, 28, if you want to skip a box, you'll know what that box means. But I think it's very powerful to get these numbers in there, right? So almost treat it like a calendar. And at the top left or the top right corner of those box, each individual box, put the year, right? And every box is 1 year. So we start with 2024 on top left and move down and to our right as we go, 2025, 2026, 2027. And the idea is you might run out of a page depending on how old you are, how many boxes you have on your page. But the idea is to get to pretty close to your termination date in terms of how many boxes you have on your page or numbers. So again, maybe you need to flip it over or have 2 pages. You have 2 pages, good for you. It might even be worth us older people making very large boxes so we have 2 pages. But so now we're going to start filling in our lives, right? So now, as you can imagine, we can go backwards, right? We can go all the way back to when we were born and when we started school, when we graduated high school, and maybe when we graduated college, maybe when we had our first child, when we got married, all these large, more fulfilling events. Now, I would also say, put in there things that are challenging, right? Because overcoming some and investing some challenges also makes you who you are today. So, but if you can, for now, instead of going back and filling in our our previous life, we're going to start from today. But you can imagine that this calendar actually extends all the way back to when you were born, and every year you did this, you did that, right? You played baseball, you were an choir at the church, right? You were all these little things that were you. Um, and again, don't get caught up in what it is and where it is yet. For now, let's just start filling in life. So starting from today, what you're going to do is basically start thinking like, if let's say you're 20 years old, I'll use my son as an example. He's in college at Ohio State. He's got his whole life ahead of him. What I would say to James is, in 2024, put what you're going to accomplish this year. Maybe you have a couple health and fitness goals. Maybe you have a business that you wanted to get started. Maybe you have a course that you wanted to take. Maybe you have something you want to learn a little bit more about. Then in 2 years or so, you're going to put graduate from Ohio State. Then this is a future forecast, right? So it can be wrong and it can change, but maybe and I might say this tends to lean towards females more than men a lot, but a lot of people have like, I want to be married and have kids by the time I'm 25 or whatever, right? If that's kind of a goal of yours, maybe put in there, have a home, right? Have purchased a home, have had my first child, you know what I mean? And put it in the years that you think respectively will work for those life events. Then I want you to go and fill in, when you're every 5-year increments, right? So using my son as the example, he's 20 years old now. So he would say, all right, in 2024, he's going to be 21, right? In 2022, he's going to be, so go every 5-year increments, right? So in terms of your age. So when he's 25, right, will be 20, I'm having a brain fart here, 2027, right? So without thinking of it, whenever he's 25, he's going to write that down on that year. Whenever he's 30, he's going to write down that year. 35, 40, 45, 50, etc. If you're 72 right now, then yours is going to be 75, 80, 85, 90, or whenever your termination date is, your chosen date. So then I want you to go. So now you have ages in there. You have some future events that are likely to occur. You have maybe a few goals in there. You might have grandkids, right? You might say, Lacey or whatever, my grandkid, or you might be close to your, nieces and nephews and things like that. I would include them, especially if they're important and they're part of your inner circle or your world. So, you might want to say, in our world, we might say, Blake and Brody are going to graduate high school XYZ dates. Spencer and Sarah are going to graduate college XYZ dates. James is going to graduate college XYZ date. So things like that. So add the people to it that are important to you and that are, large family events. You might even go back and say, by this year, I want to be earning this amount of money, right? And be in this type of career or have my business started. Okay. Even if you don't know exactly what that is yet, a dumb little analogy, you're driving out in the country, right? You're driving, you come up over the hill, right? And it's like, oh man, you start leaning to the right a little bit, right? Because You don't know what's coming up over the hill. Is it going to be a big truck? Or you slow down a little bit, right? Because you don't know if you're going to come over and see a farmer or a deer or something like that, right? But inevitably, 99.999 times out of 100, the hill and the road actually just present itself, right? It's not a fall off cliff. You know what I mean? That's generally not a kid running out in the middle of the road. It's generally a car just, if there is another car, it's in its lane, and are there exceptions? Unfortunately, absolutely. But generally speaking, even if you don't know or can't see the road ahead, you have to have faith that it's going to present itself if you just keep going. So that's a whole nother lesson, but consider that. So now you're going to go back in and fill in, when might I pay off my car? So when's that 5 or 6 year term end? When might I pay off my mortgage, right? When will that 15 or 30 year term end? Maybe you have some businesses and some other loans that are, a big deal to get paid off. Here's when these will get paid off. Now sometimes don't use the amortization of the loan, because you might have a desire to pay those things off early. So make your goals. You're not going to pay off a business loan in a year, most likely. But if the business loan is a 5-year loan or a 10-year loan, maybe you have a goal to pay it off by XYZ. So put those goals in there, but make them realistic to some degree. So when am I going to pay off my mortgage? When am I going to pay off my car? If you're lucky enough to not have those bills, kudos to you. That means you've done something right, monetarily at least, in planning. But now maybe you want to think about, well, when will I have enough money? When will I amass enough money or assets or both to retire? If you're the type like me that don't think you'll ever retire, when do you think you'll amass enough money to just do what you actually want, and never need for anything or want for anything, and maybe even leave some money and some assets behind for some loved ones? By when, by what year and what amount? Put it in. Okay. So now you get the idea. We can add as much or as little detail as we want to this, right? But now we've got some concrete things. We've got, in my example, when James is going to graduate and when some of our nieces and nephews are going to graduate. And I would go as far as, you have brothers and sisters, and parents, and that are married, and you have anniversaries, right? You have 50-year anniversaries, 60-year anniversaries, 10-year anniversaries. Those are big deal to people that you love, right? So I put those in there because, again, it's all these things that are kind of a reminder, like Michelle and I just passed our 10-year, and it's like, we had been together almost 10 years before that, but it's still just a kind of slap in the face. It's like, we've been married 10 years, like, where'd the 10 years go? And we've done a lot. And we've created a really good life for ourselves. And we've had some great experiences, but it goes fast, right? That's one thing we do know. It's like one of my favorite Kenny Chesney songs is "Don't Blink." If you don't know it, go watch the video or listen to the song and read the words. Everybody thinks they know the words, and you don't know the words. Read the lyrics while you listen to the song. It's much more powerful. So now let's look back over our squares. Okay. So the first thing that's gonna smack you in the face, especially if you're middle-aged and older, is how many squares I have left, right? And it's like, damn, I've used all my squares. And then you start thinking like, wow, I've wasted time, right? I've wasted opportunity. I've wasted, right? So don't get caught up in that, because you can't do anything about the past right now. And a lot of people think like you can't do anything about the future. You can't do anything about the past. Live in the now, right? You hear that a lot. And I would agree with that to some point, but we can actually do something about the future. And that's the only piece that we can do anything about. Outside of the decision to live in the now and do things now so that the future is better. The nowness is occurring whether we like it or not. Like, now is past, now is past, now is right. So nowness is happening, and it's a matter of what we do in our nowness to create that future, or at least sway it towards a more positive direction. So with every brick we lay, we try to make that future wall a little more straight and a little more perfect and a little higher and a little stronger, right? And things like that. To use the brick, the brick making the perfect wall analogy. So the only way you can decide your future is to get on it today, right? And what we're doing now is going, okay, I've done whatever in the past, good or bad. Now we're here, right? Now we're in, uh, Thanksgiving time, in the United States in 2024. Okay. So how many squares do you have left? Right? Do you have your squares filled in with things you'd still like to accomplish? Or are they a bunch of future empty years? Right? So now it starts challenging you to think about the things that you enjoy doing, right? Think about the things that you've put off. Think about the things you said, when the kids graduate, we'll do this. When I get that job, we'll do this. When, right? When I living life on that extended plan that, sometimes someday never comes, folks. So get on it, right? We can be doing something. It's what can we do, not what can't we do, right? There's always a feeling of like, well, if I do this, that'll happen. If I do this, that'll happen. I can't afford that. And we're always waiting for this like stars align perfection to get going on something. Get going on it. Use some imperfect action. Okay. You can do something today towards your goals, right? Or towards something you want to do. If there's a a large, a trip or a vacation or a place you want to go that you think is out of your reach, put it on there and give yourself a year or two or more to earn the money and get there. Because what's going to happen in this whole thing that we're doing here too, um, there's a cosmetic consciousness to all this, right? There's intentions and all these things, within our conscience that we have already proven through science and we know in our hearts. um when we wish well and pray well and want well and those, for the people that we know and love and what they're doing and trying to achieve, it's powerful. And then what happens is, you know someone out there realizes that that's very important to you. And this is a kind of a crazy example, but it happens all the time. Some random person comes and gives somebody that trip, right? I heard your story, it moved me, right? But the only way that happens is if you put it on this type of exercise, this type of sheet. You have it in your brain, you have it as a goal, and then you share with people about that. Man, one of the things I've always wanted to do, my bucket list number one would be, going to Africa or whatever it is for you. Um, People will help you get there, and the world and the cosmic consciousness, um, will help you get there if you keep the stream open and positive. So again, another lesson, but it's true and it's factual. It's not mambo jambo in my brain. Okay. Um, so you've looked back over your squares. You're going, wow, I've had so many great squares, or I've wasted some squares. I've had a little bit of both. Now let's get on it for the future. Um, so do you find yourself not filling things in for the future is where we started getting, and if you're hesitant to put things in because you're afraid you won't make it there, or you're afraid you won't succeed at it, put it in. But I want you to also, beside that thing that you put it in there, put a note for yourself, like a star or a question mark, or maybe just write this in. Why not? Question mark. Why not? Why not you? Right? So, I can think of things right now that my mom thought would never happen, or, you know, well, she didn't deserve, or something, some crazy thing in her brain. But someone like me will come along, and others, that'll make it happen for them. You know what I mean? So, to use one example for her is like, you don't sit and have water coming into your bedroom, because you're afraid of what it's going to cost to get something fixed. Like, you start marching down what has to happen and make it happen, or someone like me will come along and make it happen with and for you. So, um you know uh put down things that may seem out of reach based on your current mindset, because the mindset's going to start changing. Okay. So now we've got this box sheet in front of you. You've got an idea of how many squares you have left. And what I hope is going through your mind right now is, wow, I really want to make the best of the squares that I have left. So I want you to concentrate on the squares you have left. I want you to concentrate on your world and the people that you love most and things around it that you want to protect. and start focusing on yourself a little bit. Okay. And as you start focusing on yourself a little bit, from, how and why do I make my decisions? For whom am I making my decisions? So that can gravitate into a positive future for knocking down some of these goals, and for showing up to the holidays um the anniversaries, right? And not being afraid of not being able to afford this or afford that, or make it to this or make it to that, or have enough energy to do this or that. Put it in, then we'll bridge the gap, right, between now and making those things happen. Okay. So once you've done this, I would love for you guys to take a screenshot or a photo of your sheets if you're willing to share them. Um, some of this is personal, and it's not something you feel like sharing, and that's fine. But I would argue that the more people who see the things that you have going on in your life, and the things that you want to acquire or achieve in your lives, the more positive people will be out there doing it. No different than you see something somebody else wants to do, and the inner you goes, man, I wonder if there's anything I can do to help that, right? And it doesn't always have to be money. Okay. Sometimes it just has to be conscious intention for people. So, very powerful stuff. I love this. So take pictures, make some comments, um, and below in the post here, and let's get each other's backs. Let's create a really positive, um, you know, uh, uh, um, place and space for all of us to share and go grab the world, right? Go grab life. Go grab it. See you next lesson.